let's talk about forks. So this right here is a Manitou Dorado. It's a 2014 Manitou Dorado Expert. It's essentially the same fork as the current generation. It's 2019 now, if this video ever lives much longer than in the future. For future viewers, it's 2019 right now. So yeah, the new generation of Dorado. It's essentially the same damper with, yeah, it's essentially the same fork with a few quirks, or at least that's what I was told at Sea Otter when I was there this year when I visited the Manitou booth. But anyways, this is it's 2014 Manitou Dorado Expert. I got this fork used from a dude who weighed 240 pounds or something, and he said he could feel the flex in the fork because you know how it's an inverted design, so there's no arch or anything, unlike the DVO ones, which has an arch, I think, and the inverted one. Or yeah, so the dude said he could feel the flex even though it's running like it's still a 20 mil standard axle. I'm 130 pounds ish. Sometimes I get high 130s. I don't feel the flex whatsoever. The wheel goes where I point it to. Sometimes a little flex ain't a bad thing either, though. Like, it actually holds like off-camber stuff better, off-camber lines better, like hold your line through off-camber sections better. Probably corners a little bit better when you want to have like more front grip traction. That works pretty well too before you actually initiate a counter steer sometimes. So flex ain't that, sometimes too stiff is not a good thing, as we all know with carbon rims, right? And 35 mil clamp handlebars. I don't know why people are still doing that. Like, I've rode one once before. Man, my wrists were sore after a whole day. But anyways, back to the fork. So this fork is their baseline model, which is essentially the same model as their high-end model. The difference is the material used. I think this one is a different aluminum than their high-end model. I remember when they first reintroduced these in like 2010 or whatever, 2009, they also had a carbon model. I'm not sure they make those anymore. They're doing all aluminum now. But yeah, this is like a lower end aluminum, and it's like less machined parts. And I think that's about it in terms of this and the crazy high-end one. So, what makes this fork special, or what's like the first thing you notice about this fork is it's badass. It looks like a motorcycle fork. It's inverted. The stanchions, these aren't stanchions, or these are the stanchions. These are the outers. So these would be kind of like, the stanchions are right here. So with this inverted design, what happens is that you constantly have oil that lubricates your seals and bushings, and because of that, there's like zero stiction. Fork is so supple, it is ridiculous. This is by far one of the best feeling forks I have ever ridden, coming from like boxers and 40s and 888s. Yeah, you guys remember those old Marzocchi 888s? Yeah, and they were plush as hell. This is pretty darn plush. So what does this thing have? It's got high-speed compression, low-speed compression, rebound, and then just your air chamber. And that is essentially it. Like, super easy to set up. It was pretty ridiculous how easy to set this thing up was. I went with manufacturer suggested settings. I think I'm running like 55 pounds or something now, maybe 60. And then I upped it a little bit because I run a little stiffer than most people. So anyways, yeah, super easy to set up. Fork is super supple. This is also a 26-inch fork, but I think the offset, I can't remember what the offset is. I think it's a 51 or 49. I'll put it right there on screen once I look it up. It's a 26-inch wheel, and I know people have stuffed 27 5-inch wheels into this with no issues. Manitou says that you probably want a different, was it different crown or something for a different offset. Um, that's what they mentioned when I asked them about it. But I think that's not that big of a deal. It'll just handle a little differently. Um, but yeah, fork is really really easy to set up. It's super supple off the top, and dude, the amount of support on this thing is ridiculous. It almost never blows through the travel unless you really, really, really fuck up. So, dude, fork is super supple. In the corners, it tracks really well, and especially on off-camber sections where you want to hold a line, it will hold as well. I think it's part of the built-in flex, I think. Some people don't like flex. I think a little bit of flex is a good thing. But to be honest, I don't think I even really feel the flex. But I know this bike tracks and sticks to the floor like crazy. The amount of mid-stroke support is very, very good. It's almost impossible to blow through the travel unless you really, really, really fuck up, and then it just sits high in the travel. So you're always like sitting in the supple part of the travel of the fork until it hits something big, and boom, and then it sits right back in the supple part. It's really, really good. The high-speed compression and the low-speed compression settings, I think I'm running a few clicks of high-speed and then a few clicks of low-speed. I can't remember what it was. I will post my settings in the description below. I wrote it down, and I will mention that later. I generally run a little bit more low-speed compression in my front compared to my forks because that helps with rear axle loading. But yeah, this is probably one of the best forks I have ever ridden, and you guys have seen me do some pretty crazy stuff with it at this point, or at least crazy for an average Joe, like not racer, not fast dude, just weekend warrior shit. Yeah. So the differences between this 2014 fork and the current generation model fork is the current generation model fork has two air chambers. One for the initial travel of the fork, I think it's for the first half or something, and then the second chamber, it's got two air springs, my bad, two air springs, but it's pumped up with one chamber. Yeah. First air springs for the initial part of the fork, and then second air spring is the second half of the fork. At least that's what the dudes at Manitou at the Seattle Manitou booth were telling me. There are two air springs. I think it was through one valve. Maybe it's two. It's probably one. Maybe it's two. Sorry. I should probably check that shit. But anyways, the new Dorados are running dual air springs now. The other thing the new Dorados have as well is that they have these pressure release valves, which you just push right here, and it just releases the pressure buildup in your in the outers, right? You guys who ride a lot of park probably have felt this a lot when you're taking ski lift up and down and you're riding again and again and again. There's heat, there's pressure buildup inside your lowers and regular forks, and then the fork kind of feels like kind of weird, right? What happens is that there's pressure that builds inside your lowers, between your lowers and your stanchions. It doesn't do anything for your damping or anything. It just like makes it harder to compress and stuff. Push the button, and then you just release the pressure. They have it up on the top. With these, I don't have these, but what you can do with them after a while is that you can just like take a socket, unscrew it, and you hear psst, and you just put it back down. I haven't had to do anything like that yet because I haven't done any long park days or anything. It's been fine so far. The other thing the new Dorados have is that they're running new, I think, bushings and seals and dust wipers and stuff. Yeah, and that's about it. But all the new stuff will retrofit into older generation Dorados. Anything which still run this chassis. So my 2014 definitely fits. I think it's the same chassis all the way through from 2010 when they first reintroduced it to now. The damper is still the same one. This is the Absolute TPC Plus damper. It's an open bath damper. It is pretty darn solid. Fork just feels good, man. Alright, so straight up, I really, really love this fork. It is not the lightest thing in the world. So I actually had a Boxer World Cup, I think it was a 2012, 2013 Boxer World Cup, which was 5.9 pounds, and this was 6.5, 6.4. Yeah, I'm just eating up the weight penalty because this thing is just better, and it's so much more reliable too, which is pretty cool. Yeah. Now, the things I don't like about this fork. So, you know how this fork I mentioned earlier, this fork is designed to weep on the seals and the bushings and all that stuff, so it's always lubricating the stanchions. And because of that, there's zero stiction, and that's part of the design, right? But because of that, you definitely want to try and make sure to wipe off the stanchions and stuff if you can after a few days or after a few rides, because dirt and stuff will collect at the bottom right there, right where the stanchion guards attach to. Yeah, they will. That, and if you're hosing off your bike after a ride, it is very possible to get your semi-bath fluid, the oil that lubricates all your stanchions and stuff, on your rotor. So be very, very careful with that. I usually just do 2 runs or whatever, and it burns off the oil, and it's fine. If I forget, it's just annoying, but that's something you have to watch out for. Yeah. Aside from the weight penalty of it being 6.5 pounds, or close to 6.5, I can't really remember what it is. I'm sure I wrote it down somewhere. If I find it, I will put it right there. And that washing the bike, hosing off, and getting suspension fluid on the rotor. Aside from those 2 things, this is definitely the best fork I have ridden by far. Granted, I have not ridden the new 2016, 2017 Boxers, it's 2019 now. Boxers, I have not ridden any of the new Fox stuff, the Marzocchi stuff, the DVO stuff. But I'd be pretty hard to believe. It would be pretty hard to believe that it gets much better than this at this point. But yeah, that's the Dorado, and yeah, let me know what you guys think, what forks you guys run. Do you guys run Dorados as well? If you do, let me know what you think and your thoughts, and share some setup tips and stuff, and don't forget to click subscribe, and check out stuff I've done with this fork over here, maybe some more over here. Who knows? Later.